In this video, I want to show you how you can create your first H5P activities for use with Pressbooks results. To do that, you'd enter your book dashboard, and on the left nav menu, we're going to come to Plugins. From the Plugins list, we'll select H5P and click the Activate button. Now that the plugin has been activated, you'll see a success message at the top, but more importantly, a new link will appear in the left menu called H5P Content. We're going to get started by creating our first piece of H5P content. I'm going to click Add New. The first time you activate the plugin, you'll want to consent and get the H5P hub. This will make it much easier for you to find activity types and create them. At this point, I'm using the H5P activity hub, and I can add a new H5P activity of any type. You can see that there's a lot of different content types. This can be overwhelming, so it's best to start with a content type that you know will work well with Pressbooks results. We have several that we recommend, but for this example, I'm going to start with quiz question set. And the first thing I'll do is click Get and install. What's happening here is that your Pressbooks book is reaching out to H5P to get the libraries that are needed to be able to create an activity that's a quiz, so an activity made up of multiple questions. It should take a few seconds, and then once it's finished, I'll be able to create my first quiz made up of multiple questions. Great, it's installed the quiz library, and now I'll click Use. You'll see with most H5P activity types, there'll usually be a tutorial and an example link at the top. This can help you see an example of one that's already built, or read their documentation for how to create a good activity of this type. The first thing you want to do is give your activity a meaningful title. You'll refer to this later when you're trying to find and locate the activity, and this will also appear later in the Pressbooks results chapter viewer. In this case, I'm going to be quizzing students on the Odyssey. So I'll say, and I'll skip the quiz introduction, and I'll come right down to the question part. The first thing I'm going to do is to add my first question. And when you're building a quiz, you can choose multiple question types. The first question I want to ask is going to be a true-false question. And down below, I'll then see what is the question I want to ask. I've already written my question elsewhere. So my question is about Emily Wilson's translation. So I posted my question. Here's the question. And the answer to this is true. So I'll leave that there. You'll also have behavioral settings. Do I want students to be able to retry this? Do I want to show them the solution? In this case, yeah, that's fine for them to retry. I'm not going to show them the solution. I'm going to let them retry it until they get the correct answer. I don't need to give them feedback on the correct or wrong answer, but I could if I wanted to. I've added that question. I'll come up and add a new question, and I'm going to add a multiple choice question here. And I'm going to ask a question about this translation again. So, and I'll give this a title, depiction of Penelope. And here, this is the question. How does she depict this character? And my first option is, I'll fill in this option here. That is not correct, so I won't mark that one as correct. This next option is correct, so I'm going to mark that one as correct. I'm going to add a couple more options, so I'll add this as an option. And finally, and I can mark the ones that I can have multiple that are correct, but in this case, there's just one, and then I'll be finished. You can add settings for the quiz, but in this case, I'm going to keep it relatively simple. I will show the check buttons, and this question is now finished. And so I will say progress indicator will be dots. That's fine. And I'm going to click create. I've just made my first H5P quiz, and that's what it takes to make your first H5P activity. You'll then see a preview of it here, and you can take it and see what a student would see. But in this case, I'm going to go ahead and add it to a chapter that I want to include for grading. So I'll come into my chapter, and from this menu, I'll click Add H5P. I will see all the H5P activities that I've created, and I can insert it in the chapter in the location that I want it. And click Save to ensure that this is there. If I then preview the chapter, you'll see here's my chapter, and here is my embedded H5P activity. Try it out, say, okay, that one's wrong. Let's retry this one and say, that's correct. I finished this activity with a 2 out of 2. And that's how you would activate the H5P plugin and create your first H5P activities.